Got to start today's show by giving a special shout out to one of our listeners, Sean Payton. As we found out today, big podcast guy.
It's true.
And so shout out, Sean. If you're listening, you're welcome on the show anytime with us. And we just got back from talking to Sean Payton George Paton down at Dove Valley at the Common Spirits Training Center, I believe is the new name.
Yeah.
Same company, but a third time they've had a different name in the past year. We've got Henry Chisholm, Zach Stevens, you here behind the camera. We're here in Studio B. What is this, the third level of the DNVR Bar?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Ready to give you everything you need to know from Sean Payton and George Paton's pre-draft press conference. We've got a lot of people tuning in right now in the Toyota chat. Hit us with a thumbs up when you do, and leave us any questions that you have, and we'll get to them later in the show. Henry, your biggest takeaway from today's press conference? Or was there anything?
That's a tough one.
Because a lot of people say, like, sometimes there's stuff there. Other times people say it's all smoke. You can't learn anything. John Elway would always come up at the beginning of these and say, well, you guys are going to learn nothing today.
Yep.
And then he would go on to tell us actually a lot of valuable information. So it depends on the people. Henry, was there anything today?
It's not. There's nothing like revolutionary. I don't even know that there's any real details to dig into. Like, it's just about the tone and the way they said things.
So read into it.
Yeah,
Tell me your
they're
biggest
desperate
takeaway.
for a quarterback. I don't know that they're super hopeful that they're going to get one, but I do think that you come away. I mean, how does it start? It's Sean saying basically, do we need a quarterback? Like, if you were to look at the roster, I guess you'd say, like, yeah, we need a quarterback. Like, there's really no way around the fact that they need a quarterback. And I think they made it pretty clear they want to get one if they have the opportunity. Like, they'd like to trade up. At the same time, though, they multiple times said, you know, there's other teams who are trying to get up too, or like those sorts of things. And so I think they really want to, but I don't come away saying like they're definitely going to get one. They're just definitely going to try. And as George Paton said, all you can really do is try.
I'm definitely with you, but I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to connect all of these dots and say it's going to happen after today. I am convinced that the Broncos are going to trade up to draft a quarterback, and we'll dive into a lot of reasons why. But Henry, one of the things that was just kind of mind-blowing to me was the head coach, who also has a big say in what goes on personnel-wise along with George, but he's a lot more involved than other head coaches in this head coach, general manager dynamic. The head coach coming out a week before the draft, when you're not supposed to have obvious big needs going into a draft. That's what every general manager would ideally like, is to not. You have Sean Payton come out multiple times and point at the quarterback position and say, yep, we've got a hole there. And Sean was asked, like, do you have to draft a quarterback because of the hole there, because of the Elway Manning history that's there? And Sean said, do we have to draft a quarterback? You would say, it sure looks like we have to draft a quarterback, but it's got to be the right one. Okay, well, how do you make sure that it's the right one? Because I do believe that. I don't believe the Broncos are going to draft a quarterback to draft a quarterback. It's got to be the right one. You move up. And that was kind of the big talk of today, was quarterbacks and trading up. Is it still realistic? Sean said, yes, it's still realistic. And then George, one more time today. George, a guy who, as you documented, Henry, has, traded back the most or something?
Trades back a lot.
During his time with the Vikings. It's really funny, the dynamic between George and Sean. Sean traded up more than anyone when he was with the Saints in the NFL, and George likes to trade back a ton. George, when asked about trading back, he said, if it's a player you think can change the landscape like a quarterback, you do what you have to do. And he said that when he was talking about trading future first-round picks. So just connecting the dots, everything points to trading up for a quarterback. And then some people may say, well, to counter this, like, well, isn't this smokescreen season right now? Yeah, it certainly is. But Sean said some things that just made it a little bit hard to stand in front of the media in 9 days from now when the draft is done and they didn't get a first-round quarterback and they didn't trade up in the second to get, Michael Penix Jr. or something. He has made it would be very hard for him to come to the media and say, like, we didn't draft a quarterback and we believe in Jarrett Stidham. And the reason for that is, Henry, we heard Sean say a lot of nice things about Jarrett Stidham in November and December when he made the move to bench Jarrett Stidham. We haven't heard Sean go out of his way to put his backing towards Jarrett Stidham. The last time we talked to him at the owners' meetings, today, he hasn't brought up Jarrett Stidham, and that's typically what happens. Coach will point to a backup and be like, we do have this guy. We really like him, so we don't feel like we have to go get that. That wasn't brought up at all today, and I honestly expected that to be brought up. I expected to be like, we could add to the quarterback room, but we also do have Jarrett Stidham. He didn't say that at all. They are just making it so clear, and we all know it, but they're making it so clear how much they know they have to get a quarterback.
Yeah, definitely. I think when Sean has a lot of long pauses when he talks, but there was one in particular when he first got asked, like, it was the first question for Mike when it was just like, do you need to go get a quarterback? And there was a long pause.
Can you reenact it with like how he said it with a long pause?
I don't remember the exact quote, but ask the question.
You've had Elway and Manning here, Coach. Do you feel like with that you need a quarterback?
Look, do we have to draft a quarterback? Man, you'd say it sure looks like we have to draft a quarterback, and it's got to be the right fit. So I think that long pause is like, you know that there's a wrong thing to say, which is like, yeah, we definitely need a quarterback. But it is pretty. But he just changed the perspective a little bit.
Right.
Do we have to? You'd say it sure looks like we have to. Like, if you're an outsider, it sure looks like it.
Sure,
and
right.
that which is just a little bit different than saying, we certainly need to draft a quarterback. He'd say, it sure looks like it, which just gives him that little bit of doubt there. So he's not saying, like, Stidham can't do it, but he obviously didn't say, like, no, we've got one. Like, we'll be just fine without one. But yeah, see, I think I totally agree with what you're saying, that they look at this and say, we'll pay whatever price it is to go get a guy. I also think there was a big tone there of, I don't know if we're going to be able to. Like, I think that was the other piece. Is I think it was twice George Paton made a little comment, like, it depends on who the competition is.
Yep.
Because there's a real, I think some would say the most likely scenario is it goes quarterback, which means the Broncos can trade up to number 4. But there's no way in hell that the Vikings aren't also trying to trade up to number 4 in that situation. It's been so obvious for so long. They have the 11th pick. The Broncos have the 12th. They also have the 23rd pick in this draft. They also have a second-round pick in this draft. And, maybe you could convince a team that the Broncos are going to be worse next year than the Vikings will be, so you'd rather have... But, they're basically the same team this year. The Broncos lose Russell Wilson. The Vikings lose Kirk Cousins. It would seem like there's going to be more of a downgrade with the Vikings, so I don't think they win too many points there. Maybe you can convince them by saying, we'll throw in Pat Surtain, but it's...
Throw in?
Yeah.
Aren't you throwing in Courtland Sutton? And you are featuring Pat Surtain?
It's, Courtland Sutton's not being involved. He doesn't move the needle.
I think he's a throw-in. I just wanted to, because you said throw in Pat Surtain. I think that's like a feature of a trade.
Yeah, no. It'd be a feature of the trade, but again, like Courtland Sutton, you're probably getting a 6th-round pick for him.
Yeah. That's why he's a throw-in. That's
exactly.
why Courtland's a throw-in.
But like maybe the Cardinals actually want Courtland Sutton, so they view him as a 6th-round pick. There's also a chance they just don't want him. So I think if they trade Courtland Sutton, that's a separate trade. I don't think that's like, you might as well just throw in your own 6th and then trade somebody else, maximize his value, like send him to the team that wants him most. But yeah, like if the Vikings say we'll give you number 11, number 23 in our first next year. How do the Broncos counter that?
Yeah.
We'll give you 12, 76. Like, we can give you our next 3 first, but that's not going to get it done. So it's Pat and this year's and next year's.
Yep.
And then it's up to them to decide, like, is that worth it? So
this year's, next year's, and Pat, holy
the thing
moly.
is, the Vikings can basically counter anything.
And that is the one thing, and I'm happy that you point out, that is the one thing that the Broncos have that the Vikings don't. As long as the Vikings aren't willing to trade Justin Jefferson. If the Vikings are willing to trade Justin Jefferson, then that's a potato with Justin Jefferson and Pat Surtain.
At best for the Broncos.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, probably, but both young superstars. Yep. And they would just have to decide, do they want a receiver? Do they want a quarterback? I have to imagine, though, the Justin Jefferson's off the block, like that they wouldn't trade him. So that's what I would say the Broncos have the advantage in if they want to trade Pat. And I am so hesitant to trading Pat Surtain.
To trade your one really good player.
Your one elite player. And
your one
just
game
like,
like you could throw Quinn in there if you wanted to. He's a guard.
Sure, right, exactly. Yeah. And George and Sean both pointed to this today. They both pointed to premium positions. Quarterback, tackle, edge rusher, and corner. Those are the 4 positions they pointed to. So, yeah, they would say that the Broncos would say that Pat Surtain's more valuable than Justin Jefferson, obviously more than Quinn Meinerz. But if the Vikings say we're not trading Justin Jefferson, that's the only piece that the Broncos could say is better in a trade scenario, is a Pat Surtain. And I wouldn't trade Pat. He's the only guy that I would really be so unbelievably hesitant to trade. But George Paton today, when talking about trading, and I already said this quote, but I'm going to say it again, about trading multiple first-round picks. He said, if it's a player that can change the landscape like a quarterback, then you do what you have to do, which to me tells me anything's on the table.
Yeah, no, definitely. But again, the Broncos aren't the only ones who feel that way. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Vikings GM said, you got to do what you got to do. And if it comes down to a bidding war, the Vikings have more to trade, with Pat Surtain being strange. But, I mean, Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
As crazy as it would sound for them to trade him, he wants a new contract. He's not only going to be the highest paid receiver, he's going to be the highest paid receiver by a wide margin.
Over $30 million a year.
Oh, yeah. He's got to be. And so there are some, there's some dynamics there. Plus, I mean, didn't they trade Randy Moss? They definitely traded Stephon Diggs. It sounds crazy, but
there's a little bit of precedent there.
You would think it would sound kind of crazy to be trading Pat Surtain also from an outside perspective. We just talked about it so much that maybe we've normalized it a little more than we should.
It's a really good point. But then at the exact same time, as difficult as it is to move on from either of those guys, what do you have if you don't have a quarterback?
Probably nothing.
Yeah, and not just from the Broncos' perspective, but also from the Vikings' perspective. So they might say, man, we can keep Justin Jefferson here for $34 million a year. I mean, that would tie, Bosa out with San Francisco. That would tie him for the highest paid player in the NFL. What does it matter if Sam Darnold's throwing 17 touchdowns to 16 interceptions for 3,200 yards? If you have an incredible wide receiver, you're not getting anything out of him. So it's a really interesting conversation. And that was actually a team that Sean Payton pointed to the Vikings, and he pointed to a couple of other teams as well.
Totally.
And let's dive into that. But of course, got to give you a reminder that our draft coverage is brought to you by Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. We love Raising Cane's. We know you are going to love it too. We had a couple of listeners earlier this week say, man, I stopped by Raising Cane's for the first time after your guys' recommendation, and it was amazing. And those chicken fingers are what makes it amazing. And of course, in that picture, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see what's right next to it. It is the coleslaw, the best. No, don't even fake it, Henry. You don't like coleslaw. I love coleslaw, and you get that cane sauce. You can even make your own little sandwich there you get the Texas toast. You put the coleslaw on top. You put the cane sauce, the chicken fingers, and then the side of the fries, the crinkle cut fries. So good. And you can order online so you don't have to wait in the long lines, or you can even go through their mobile app to order. Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers, one love.
Also, want to give a shout out to Toyota. We're not in the Toyota Lounge today, which is it's a little disappointing to me personally. I love the Toyota Lounge. At least we still have the Toyota chat over there, which has actually slowed down in the last couple minutes. I'm a little disappointed by it. So you guys better get back at it. There's 250 of you. Also give us a like while you're in there. But yeah, Toyotas are the best car. I'm trying to think. don't think I must have saw a Toyota. I don't remember seeing like a notable Toyota on my drive back, but that's rare.
I saw a Toyota driving out of this parking lot yesterday.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Nothing better than seeing a Toyota in the wild.
Exactly. It was a 4Runner too. Nothing better than seeing a 4Runner in the wild.
Yeah. Weren't they just, I think Toyota was just driving some like Toyotas on the beach. I think there was like a 4Runner doing like donuts or something out in California.
Must have been a commercial because you didn't see that here.
No
real beaches here.
No. Be nice if there was. But while we can't get beaches here, you can get a Toyota here if you go to one of your front range Toyota stores. They've got, of course, all of the different Toyotas, and they're all so good. Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR, not the DNVR, also the official automotive partner of the NFL. So visit your front range Toyota stores at a location near you. AutoNation Toyota, Arapahoe and Centennial, Corwin Toyota in Boulder, Groove Toyota in Littleton, Mountain States Toyota in Denver, Stevenson Toyota East in Aurora, and Stevenson Toyota West in Lakewood. Toyota, official automotive partner of the NFL and the official vehicle of DNVR.
So I think one of the things that George Paton kind of touched on, and then Sean really went in on along the lines of where you were going here, Henry, was, it's great to say you want to trade up. But then you have to find a trade partner.
Exactly.
And then there's also other people competing. So they said they don't know who they're drafting right now at 12 because they don't know what the first 11 picks are going to be. And then kind of in that same vein, they don't know what the price of trading to 4 is. They don't know what the price of trading to 6 is because of... you jump in this chat and it just throws me off so much.
Don't be reading the chat.
All caps. You just say bar. Let's ban him for that bar.
Somebody asked, what's my plan for Saturday? Okay, well, since it's banned in the chat, let me answer the question on the podcast so everybody has to hear. Henry, what's your plans for Saturday? From Derek LaDuca. It seems back. It should be
talking
DeLuca.
about the Nuggets game?
Just talking about Saturdays. Bar is the answer. See,
there you go.
Instead of being able to chat it, I just wasted 30 seconds.
Well, you know what? Yahir could have saved that question. We could have answered it at the end.
He wouldn't have seen it.
I might also be at the bar on Saturday for a Nuggets game. Yeah.
We'll have to stay in touch.
Round 1. Yeah, you have my number. So
I do, don't I?
You do.
Yeah. I was just going to DM
you rarely respond to me, so that would make sense why you didn't know you had my number.
That's not true.
Derek says sweet, by the way.
Actually, back to back. It is sweet. See, and this all could have just happened in the chat. Now where are we? The Toyota chat, I should say.
Yes, exactly. There you go. So there's so many different things about, okay, well then how much is it going to cost to trade up 2-4, 2-3, 2-6 to wherever you're going to be? And they both admitted today, like, we don't know because if we're the only ones trading up, that's probably not going to, they're not going to be able to bid against us. And so it's not going to cost a ton. But then George said, or Sean said, there's a lot of teams. Their top 4 teams might draft a quarterback. Top 3 teams might draft a quarterback. And then he said then there's this other group which needs quarterbacks. It's the Vikings at 11, the Broncos at 12. This is the head coach of the Denver Broncos admitting and pointing out that the Broncos need a quarterback. And then he said the Raiders at 13. He said there's this group as well, which is he's kind of answering and talking about 2 questions at once about the quarterbacks, but then also about the trade up situation. And so it gets into, okay, well, how many teams are going to be in there? And you kind of talked about it right before, like the Vikings probably have more appealing for the most part, can counter anything the Broncos do because of their 2 first-round picks this year. Plus, they're 1 spot ahead of the Broncos at 11 instead of 12.
No, I mean, that's huge. And there's the Giants in there too, because that's like the real X factor is if they don't think Daniel Jones and Drew Lock is a real future, which would probably be the right assumption to make, all of a sudden they're sitting there at 6. And if you have the 6th pick, you're absolutely thinking we're not going to have the 6th pick in the draft for a very long time. Because nobody sits there and thinks like we're going to be one of the 5 or 6 worst teams in the NFL.
It's exactly what the thought process was of the Panthers last year.
Exactly.
They said, yes, we can trade future first-round picks because we're not going to be this bad.
Yeah. They were wrong.
They were very wrong. But they had that. They had that assumption. How it works. Yep.
So if you're sitting there at the 6th pick, and you see a lot of people saying like you can't take this huge risk by giving up all this stuff to go get a quarterback who might bust. And the truth is, at some point, they're going to need to get a quarterback. And when they draft a quarterback, you're going to have to give up a whole lot, unless things go horribly wrong and you wind up with the top 3 pick. But nobody is planning on that in a front office. So that's why the Giants, they're sitting there with the 6th pick. I mean, if they want to move up to 4, to make sure that nobody else does, or if there's a bidding war and they hear about it and jump in late, I mean, that's another team with the trump card. The Broncos have that nice edge on the Raiders, being 12 instead of 13. Yeah. Raiders have a second-round pick. And so there is like this lack of assets in the long run that it's going to make it really tough. And I think we kind of knew this already because you're trading up to get a quarterback, but it's going to be ridiculously expensive just given how many teams around there are going to be trying to do the exact same thing.
So that's one of the factors. How many other teams are going to be there? Another factor is who's off the board at 1, 2, 3, 4. Maybe it's after 2 picks, it's open. But there is one good bit of news for the Broncos with all of this. Today, the Giants front office and the Patriots front office held their pre-draft press conferences as well. And they both said they are open for business to move back in the draft, where you might say, counter that and say, well, like, sure, what else are they going to say? The Commanders did not say that. With the number 2 overall pick, they said, we are not going to trade back. We are going to take, I don't know if they exactly said quarterback, but it's obvious they're going to take a quarterback. And they said, we will know our pick early next week. So it's not like every team has to say this. So you're finding some trade partners that would be willing to trade back. At 3, that means you're getting either Jayden Daniels, Drake Maye, or J.J. McCarthy. You're guaranteed at least one of those guys, likely 2 of those guys potentially. And then at 6 as well, and let's say the Arizona Cardinals, let's say the Patriots shock everyone, and they say we're not trading back. We're taking Marvin Harrison Jr.
And that's the dream scenario. And we'll get into this probably more next week, right before the draft, about what you want to see unfold at the top.
Tell me why that's a dream scenario.
It's one quarterback still on the board after that pick. Like you just want quarterbacks on the board, because instead of having to trade up to 4 to get the 4th best quarterback or the 4th quarterback off the board, they would never call it the 4th best quarterback. You get to trade up to 5 to get the 4th best quarterback. Now, the tough part there is that's the Chargers, and so they don't necessarily want to trade with you. So there's still some hitches in there, but you just want to see quarterbacks stay on the board. And at this point, it's just so tough to imagine. I do think, though, it would be ridiculous if there's 4 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks. 4 quarterbacks in the first 5 picks. Like, that's unprecedented in the history of the NFL.
Well, I think it's going to happen.
I think everybody thinks it's going to happen because every sign is pointing that way. But
didn't they think that too in the Josh Allen draft, though? That it was going to be like 4 or 5 quarterbacks in the first 5 picks?
It's so hard to remember. I went through all those mock drafts and found that usually there's like a little bubble. And so you start with like, if just in terms of where the quarterbacks are drafted, because there's no clear way to explain this, it's like you're like you start out with like a 7 out of 10 in terms of the hype around the quarterbacks, and it goes up to a 10 out of 10, and that drops off to like an 8.5 or 9 out of 10. Like one of the guys slips a few spots from where you think a couple weeks before, but not all the way down to where they started. Like there's examples, obviously, like way back in the day, there used to be the big slides, like Aaron Rodgers sliding all the way down to the 20s, and everybody's like, what the hell? Or you have a couple years ago, Kenny Pickett, the only first-round quarterback, and that was one where people thought there might be a few in the top 10 even.
Yeah.
A little bit different because people are more excited about these quarterbacks than those quarterbacks, but you don't know until it happens, and so it's going to be Thursday is just going to be crazy. It's going to be ridiculous.
It is, and we know that George, he admitted that he's already talked to teams ahead of him about trading up. He's already talked to teams behind him about trading back. But that was the only time that there was talk today about trading back, whereas at the owners' meetings a month ago, there was more talk about trading up, trading back. It was about equal on both of those talks, and George made it clear at the owners' meetings. He's like, we could trade up, we could trade back, we could stay at 12. Today, his emphasis, and Sean's as well, was staying at 12. I think he said we're going to get a really good player at 12, and then all the trade talk happened. And all the trade talk was focused on trading up. Up. And again, this is smoke and mirrors time, but I think today it was an interesting dynamic of George kind of trying to lay out the company line of we're going to get a really good player at 12. And then Sean being like, well, there's all these teams that need quarterbacks and the cost to trade up. And so Sean really pushed it. And that's not a surprise. That's what we've seen with history. Sean wants to trade up. George kind of wants to stay pat or move back. And so I thought that was actually kind of a good insight into the dynamics. But when George was really pressed about it, he did say if there's a quarterback and available that you really like, you do whatever you have to get him. And that is why my biggest takeaway from this is it's going to happen. It is going to happen because they're not going to go into this season with Jarrett Stidham as a number one option. And Ryan Tannehill, Zach Wilson, those guys aren't going to move the needle more than a Jarrett Stidham would. And Sean's not going to sit back.
Yeah. I mean, at some point, there's only so much you can do, though. If the Vikings are as hell-bent on getting a quarterback as Sean Payton is, they can just match you 1-for-1 all the way up the board, and they've got the trump card. If the Broncos go out there and say, we'll give you every pick for the next 3 years, which is like the farthest out you can trade them, the Vikings can say, we'll do the exact same thing, and their picks are better. Like, they have the advantage here just by having more assets. And so I totally agree. They're going to do whatever they can to make it happen. I just think that the Vikings are going to do that same thing. And there's a real chance the Raiders do as well. And there's also a chance that the Giants are the wild card here. And if the Giants decide they want a quarterback, they've got the easier path, obviously. And it's like the Broncos are one of 4 teams that could be trying to get up. And they're definitely one of 3 teams at the very least who are trying to get up. And they have the least to work with. So who knows? Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen?
I have one reason why the Broncos might have a little, not advantage, but to counter something you're saying or to put a little more context to it, because what you're saying is absolutely right. But I've got one thing to maybe make Broncos fans make the Broncos feel a little better, but also there's some truth to it too. But I got to tell you about Circa Sportsbook, where if you want to get in on any sort of betting, this is like an epic time to get in on betting. Whether you like to bet just straight up bets or you want to do some prop bets with the draft coming around, you can bet on the Nuggets this weekend. And Circa Sportsbook is a great one because they strive to be a -110 split on everything. Unlike other sports books, which do -115, -120, which means you don't get the same value. Circa strives to give you the best value out there. They keep as much money on the table for big time bets, especially compared to other sports books. They have a ton of transparency and high app limits. So if you want to get in, Circa is the app for serious bettors. If serious bettors are doing that, it's kind of like when you look at good teams. Like, how are good teams built? If you're a bad team, kind of follow that model of how good teams are built. That's what Circa is about. Download the app at circasports.com. Circa Sports bets can only be made while physically located in the state of Colorado. Must be 21 or older. All rights reserved. Circa Sportsbook Colorado encourages you to gamble responsibly. If you have a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER or visit problemgamblingcolorado.org.
Also, Breckenridge Brewery. We're going to be out there. It's so hard on blocking that damn chat because you say, Henry, you have to think outside the picks. The only things to trade, they can package their Pickett's and Surtain. They have Justin Jefferson. like they have the trump card.
See, and you just did it. You're blocked in the chat, but you just responded. Civilly to Nick Allen.
Something I already said 15 minutes ago, and we just wasted more time doing it.
I'm sorry. I completely forgot you were banned.
There we go.
He's
thank you.
Unbanned.
Wow, there goes a minute of everybody's life.
Brewery.
Yeah, which we will all be doing on Thursday, a week from today. I've heard we've been selling some tickets. Ooh, we got another special giveaway. I don't think we've said this one, but I was out shopping for something yesterday that we'll be passing out to somebody who's there. And there's no gotta pay an extra raffle. No, you get $15. You pay $15. You get a burger, you get a beer, you get to hang out with us. And we got some giveaways, like I said. So
I was thinking about that deal. The $15 is cheaper than a burger and a beer.
Yes.
So you're just getting a deal straight up there.
Yeah, imagine like Five Guys, where it's like $17 for a burger.
Yep.
You get beer with this, and you get to hang out, and it's at Breck. It's going to be awesome. Tickets, like I said, are on sale, so go buy them because it's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be hanging out there. Anything? I feel like that's a pretty good plug for that. Also, Saturday at the bar, going to be drinking a whole bunch of Breckenridge beers. it's officially Breckenridge beer season. So check out the beer locator near you at breckbrew.com to find any Breckenridge beer you want to try.
So one of the things that you're right about is other teams could trade more than the Broncos or be even more desperate, or the Broncos and the Raiders are actually in this disadvantage with the Chargers having the 5th pick. So the Vikings actually have a leg up on both of those teams because they can trade with 3, 4, 5, 6, where the Broncos can only trade with 3, 4, 6. There's no way Jim Harbaugh is going to help Sean Payton or help the Las Vegas Raiders get their franchise quarterback unless they pay way too much. But we know that if the price is up there, then they're just going to take the Vikings offer. But here's one thing that you have to keep in mind is the Broncos aren't just going to take a quarterback to take a quarterback. I am convinced of that. I think it's what George said today. It's what Sean said in the past. If you love someone, you do what you have to do to get them specifically at that quarterback spot. So I think, personally, I think there's 2 guys that the Broncos like. And now this is me kind of connecting some dots. I think it's Jayden Daniels, and I think it's J.J. McCarthy. So what you have to hope is that the Vikings fall in love with Drake Maye and that the Patriots pass on drafting a quarterback. So it goes, I think it's going to be Jayden Daniels at 2. A lot of steam to that right now. Obviously, Caleb's off the board. Then it's Marvin Harrison. What'd I say?
No, it was a good one in the chat.
If it's Marvin Harrison Jr. at 3 or Drake Maye, then JJ's still available there for you. So that's kind of the hope, and that's why you hope the Vikings fall in love with Drake Maye. And we heard Daniel Jeremiah, who did a press conference call yesterday. Right. He said he believes there's 2 teams who are in love with, or who he thinks love J.J. McCarthy. That's the Vikings and the Broncos. So that doesn't really help there. You're kind of competing with them for him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other piece of the conversation we haven't talked about is like QB4 can't go off the board before pick number 4, and you wouldn't think the Cardinals are going to take him. So that's where you need to get up and try to go get him. If you don't like the 4th quarterback, then what? Like, you probably just say like, well, we can't give up 3 first-round picks to go get somebody we don't want.
Right.
And
that's why you give up 3 first-round picks to go get the 3rd quarterback.
That'd be nice.
And then you're desperate. Like, it's not ideal, the situation the Broncos are in.
No, I mean, yeah.
You do whatever
as it would turn out, not having a quarterback, not really having a great player at any other position, not having your 2nd-round pick, and just the general bad vibes, not a good situation to be in. There's no easy answer. Like, here's just what you do to go fix everything.
Yeah, Sean was. I mean, speaking of vibes, though, Sean was wearing a cool sweatshirt today. Though,
it was.
So.
I didn't really like. Do you see like it has like the Broncos 23
you
on the
didn't
back?
like that?
I just looked. I don't know.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like that
it's like cursive Broncos in orange written on the back, and it's kind of slanted.
Yeah.
And it's 23. I first thought it was because of like Jordan brand or something, but no, it was for last year. It was the 23rd season.
Yeah. No, he's a stylish guy. You gotta give him that. I don't know. I didn't love that sweatshirt.
Speaking of style, haircut bet. What do you think of that? Sean and George have a haircut bet. So they said that they were asked an interesting question. They were asked if it comes down to 2 guys. You guys are on the clock. How do you and you both like 2 different guys? How is that decided? And I think it was our friend Cecil Lammy who said, "Do you thumb wrestle? Or thumb war, arm wrestle? How is that decided?" And they said, "No. We decide all of this way ahead of time, and so we don't have any disagreements going into a draft. That rarely ever happens because we've worked it all out before." But George did say, or Sean said, that there was one position that they clearly disagreed on who was going to be first taken off the board. I have to imagine it's a position the Broncos aren't interested in.
Yep.
There's not many of those. So maybe tackle
or
guard or something where they have a disagreement. And whoever is right, it's a haircut bet. So what do you think that means? The other person has to pay for their haircut, or like they're going to get a wild haircut?
I would guess it's a bad haircut. And I'd also bet
that.
There's no,
love that.
It's got to be like July or something.
Yep.
When there's no practice, nobody will see it. It'll grow back before whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's strange. I was trying to think about it. It obviously isn't quarterback because Caleb Williams is going first.
Yep.
Running
back?
It could be running back for sure.
In terms of like top guy off the board, because the Broncos probably aren't going to use a first round pick.
Receiver would be a good one just because that would be one that you could get riled up about. Somebody said, well, it's obviously Marvin Harrison. And somebody else is like,
yeah,
all the vibes that are trending toward Malik Neighbors. And if you
the
think
Broncos
about,
aren't going to be in that conversation for one of those.
It's true.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Good receiver.
I'm curious what that could be. I also wonder if it's one where the other way it could come about is like, if Joe Alt doesn't go off the board first, I bet it's because somebody likes Olu Fashanu. And the other guy's like, no, I mean, if it's not Joe Alt, then it's going to be the other guy. And so I wonder if it's almost a three-way thing.
Right.
Well, yeah, there we go. Todd, I'll have to send that to Todd. He'd love that. But that's where it's like, if this guy goes off first, then you get a haircut. If this guy goes off first, you get a haircut. If it's just like the guy you expect, then neither of us does the haircut thing.
Right.
Like,
Man.
I'm so sure that guy is not going in front.
Yeah, as Jose says, could be long snapper or something like that. Man,
I don't think any of those are going off the board.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
If one of these guys starts wearing a hat exclusively, we're going to know who lost the bet.
We will.
But I mean, it has to be that sort of haircut bet. Like, it's got to be a bad haircut. It can't be
has
like,
to be.
I'm going to pay your $50 haircut.
Nobody cares.
With these guys,
They-
when they're
nobody
making
cares.
millions, yeah.
Nobody cares.
No,
Yep.
no,
They don't
nobody
have-
cares.
Yeah.
No. So that was a little fun thing out of today. Would you say the conversation around Courtland Sutton was a fun thing or not? Or how would you describe the short conversation surrounding Courtland Sutton today from Sean and George?
There just wasn't much there. I mean, they brought a positive attitude into it. Like, they knew it was coming, and it's like they both talked to him. Not concerned. I don't think they would say they're concerned anyway. Like, this isn't a team that, especially with George Paton, ever since he took over, they're not going to be like trying to play the chess match in front of everybody. Like, we're not going to budge on anything. So they just don't really do that. They kind of keep all the discussions to themselves. So it was kind of just the status quo. He's not here. We talked about it, and we're not worried.
Yep, they both said that they've talked to Courtland. He's in a good spot, is the words George Paton used to talk about Courtland Sutton. They made sure everyone knows this is voluntary until the mandatory minicamp in the middle of June.
Yep.
Everything leading up to that is voluntary, but it's not voluntary. Like, come on. We know. As Sean said today, 98% attendance. He said only 2 or 3 guys weren't here. He's talked to all of them. And I think this is just their way of approaching this because, as you just said, George doesn't like to air contract negotiations publicly. He really hated that Russell Wilson stuff came out last year. He really did a good job of burying any contract talks with Justin Simmons before they re-signed him a couple of years ago. Same with all of these other guys, including Courtland Sutton when they gave him that new deal a couple of years ago. So not surprised of the route they're taking. But I think that for Sean to say 98% attendance, I think is a little shot at look, everyone else is here.
Yeah.
Everyone but you and maybe one other person is here right now. And we don't know who that other person or two is, but I have to imagine it's not under similar circumstances.
Yeah.
Not many people have that power to be holding out right now.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that he has the power because what are they going to do?
Trade him.
Yeah.
See ya.
And then what happens?
He's on a different team.
Yeah, and he still gets his money from a team with a real quarterback, and they wind up not having any receivers.
Did you see the thing? Did you see the thing about his contract though? Is if the Broncos cut him, there might actually be a reason for the Broncos to cut him instead of trade him. And maybe I'm wrong on this, but if they cut him and he gets signed by someone else for more than the $2 million that the Broncos have already guaranteed him, then the Broncos don't have to pay that $2 million.
But if they trade him, because that's all just guaranteed salary.
Same thing.
So if they trade him, the other team just pays that.
Okay.
That
So then the
basically
Broncos are completely off the hook.
exactly.
So that's the benefit for the Broncos is, they do get worse at the wide receiver position for this year. There's no doubt about it moving on from Courtland. But they do save $13 million in cash and $17 million against the cap.
No,
I guess
13 against the cap.
13
because they
million
still have
against
the
the
dead
cap.
cap from the signing
Yep.
bonus. But yeah, I mean, again, you can't put a rookie quarterback into that situation, or he's going to wind up throwing for 2,200 yards, and we're going to be drafting another next year.
Sure you can.
I mean, that'd be the worst situation a rookie quarterback's ever been put into, though.
Bryce Young was put into a worse one last year.
I would take they had Thielen, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that's it.
exactly. And that's
But he
better.
didn't have an offensive line.
Yeah.
Like you've said, the Broncos have a top 10 offensive line.
No, I think it's good, but you have nothing proven at receiver.
What if you go get Ayuk?
Yeah, I mean, then that's a different conversation. Like, then you actually have a number one. I do think he might be a little bit tougher receiver to use. I think getting a speed guy for rookie quarterback, again, for like the right quarterback, it might make sense. It opens things up. But I also think like a possession receiver, somebody who you can go to over and over and over again, is probably more valuable to a rookie than a guy who goes like, it's like how many times are you just going to throw deep balls to him? And if you don't have that, what do you have? So that would obviously work. If the plan is to go get another receiver, then you could make it happen. But like, again, trading off the table, like what are they gonna like? They're not gonna bench him because you can't tell a football team like, hey, Court's not playing. Instead, we've got these other guys out there. The team is gonna be like, what the fuck? Like Court isn't playing. Like what are we doing here? Like it just doesn't work. Yeah, I get Thielen was a shell of himself last year, but again,
He was.
you're comparing it to Josh Reynolds.
Who was the starter last year for
I mean,
a much
because
better
of
offense.
injuries. But again, like 628 yards is the peak number of his career.
Yeah. No, it's true. Courtland only had 100 more last year than that.
It's true.
Just
but
over 100.
Also 10 touchdowns, which goes a long way. What did Thielen have? Thielen had 1,000 yards last year.
Yeah, because that was his only guy he was throwing to.
That's why, like, you trade out last year's Panthers receivers for this year's Broncos receivers minus Court. You take last year's Panthers receivers.
No.
Like long term,
I'm taking Marvin Mims.
Exactly. Like long term, you take Mims, but like just for next year,
Who are
I
the
don't
other
think
guys?
So. I don't even know.
That's my point.
But you
I'm taking the Broncos this year.
Like you can find, like you can go sign another Josh Reynolds week 1 of the season. Like you can go sign another Tim Patrick week 1 of the season.
How rude.
Like it's just the truth. Like I love those guys and I hope everything goes well, but those are not like, how will we replace that guy? Like there's somebody sitting on the street right now.
Yeah, I mean 700 yards. So it's going to be interesting. But I think the Broncos aren't necessarily thrilled that he's not there, especially with the coach like Sean Payton. All right, Henry, we've got a couple other notes to talk about from today's press conferences, but I got to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time. If you're trying to go to the Nuggets game this Saturday and Monday, Game Time is the place to go. Tickets right now, just over $100, but Game Time is all about if you wait close to game time, the prices are going to get better. And one of the things I love about Game Time is the all-in pricing. We were looking at tickets potentially for one of these Nuggets games, and you don't have to wonder like, okay, so it says it's $70 right now, but then when I get to checkout, it's actually going to be $130 a ticket. You just do that all-in pricing on Game Time. It tells you exactly how much that ticket is going to be. Takes out all of the hassle with fees and everything. So Game Time is the best. They've also got the Game Time guarantee, meaning they're going to give you 110% back of a ticket that you buy if you find a cheaper price of a ticket in the same section and row. So Game Time is where it's at. So download the app and use the code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase over at Game Time. That's code DNVR over at Game Time.
Also, Circle K. I would love to go to Circle K right now. I'm actually super hungry. I forgot I ran out of bagels this morning, and I wasn't prepared for that. And so I wound up eating. I grabbed like a handful of carrots.
Wow.
And just like took those with me as I walked out the door. And so I would love some actual food.
Is that all you've had right now?
I grabbed a bag of chips from like the office.
2:16 p.m.
I know.
Henry.
Well, and then we've got the draft pod at 3 after this.
Wow. Well, shout out to the draft pod. People are noticing in the chat that there's another Broncos show after this. And yeah, we're going to be loading you guys up with draft pods over the next week.
Yes. No, it's going to be pretty crazy. Also, somebody's really upset that I used the F word. Setting a poor example for the youth of Denver.
Wow. I mean, Bud West, I agree with you. Henry out here always setting a poor example for the youths.
I'm a bad boy. It is what it is.
Wow, bad youths. That should make your mama proud, he says.
I don't think she minds. My grandma doesn't care.
Yeah, Hank is just a bad example regardless.
Yeah. I ate those carrots this morning, though. That was good.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's why I got that orange tan.
That's what I was trying
to tell
Lexi. That's a
thing.
Yeah. No, you like turn yellow.
Yeah, orange, right?
What I read was yellow. Well, because my thing is, I've just been buying those big bags of carrots because it's like it's a healthy thing. Like you're hungry, you just eat them. Like if you just do that for a few weeks instead of like chips or whatever it would be, it's got to be a good thing. But so you wind up eating like a half pound of carrots a day, and all of a sudden, like I'm just waiting. Like apparently it's your palms and the soles of your feet that turn yellow first. And so like every day, I just give my feet a little check to make sure it's not yellow yet.
Well, we know you give your feet checks every day.
Circle K.
Yeah, Circle K. I would love to get basically anything they have right now. The Inner Circle membership is a free membership. It's easy to download the app. You just use the QR code. It's right there beneath me on the screen. You can enter your email, your phone number. You'll be fully enrolled. After that, you just need to remember your phone number when you get to Circle K, and you'll get the deals. It's not that hard, hopefully. First 5 fill-ups of gas are 25 cents off a gallon. First 5 Polar Pops are free. Every 6 free on several items, such as pizza, roller grill, dispensed beverages, donuts, and more. Get a free any size Polar Pop from Colorado Circle K's by texting DNVR to 31310. That's DNVR to the number 31310. Message and data rates apply. Periodic recurring messages per month. Terms and conditions can be viewed at circlek.com. Sign up with the QR code on screen or visit https://www.circlek.com/inner-circle for more information.
I love making you do those. Because they get to your head so
I know,
easily.
it's like I might as well just say, I pause. Like I don't want people to be confused about why I pause. Might as well just say it.
Just like the Toyota chat is always getting in your head. As someone in the chat says, he sets a poor example by his showering habits.
That's a good one.
And I do like that one. That's a really.
Can you read their name?
Nope, I can't.
You
I
can't?
can't. No, I'll let.
I see it.
That's all you hear.
Wow.
The Toyota chat has been bringing it today. We love you guys. Hit us with a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. A lot of thumbs up coming in recently. So thank you so much for that. Really helps us out. Something else that helps us out is if you turn on downloads on the podcast or Spotify app. Turn those on. It really helps us out. I know at least for the Apple product, you go to podcasts, the app, go to the Broncos podcast, top right corner of the screen when you're looking at our show. There's a button. Click that and then turn on automatic downloads. It really, really helps us out. And we really appreciate all of the support that we get from you guys. All right, let's... Henry, you're just looking at the chat.
I like that one. You look up bad boy in the dictionary, you'll find a picture of Hank.
Yeah, you'll find a picture of Hank with like mosquitoes and stuff and like stink stains coming out.
No, I don't. Wow. Those are not. Those are flies. Those aren't mosquitoes. Also, it's not me, but like when those little bugs, it's not mosquitoes that chase the smell of garbage. It's flies.
Shout out,
you would know. I smell good. I wouldn't know that.
No, well, that's probably why you get mosquitoes.
Shout out to TFBK. You know who I'm talking about. Really,
he wants you to
really. No, I'm intentionally not doing it for the people.
Shout out the other guy that's just like me, the fat brown kid.
There we go.
We love both of you. We love both of you. Yeah, are you a kid?
A kid at heart, always and forever.
Kid at heart. I love that. A couple of more things, a couple of notes from today. One other thing, just talking about the quarterbacks, want to make sure that we included this. George Paton did say it is a good quarterback class, and then he added that there's 7 to 8 good quarterbacks in this class that he believes can play in the NFL at some point. So we talk about the big 6 in the first round. He also threw in 2 more. Not the biggest surprise. But do you think it is as obvious as the top 6 plus Michael Pratt and Spencer Rattler?
Rattler for sure. Pratt is more of like a taste type of deal.
So is that why it's 7 or 8? Is it like 7 for sure with Rattler and then maybe 8 depending on Pratt?
Like there's a chance that they do something like again, Milton has all the tools. Like if you're saying at some point, like maybe you say like maybe he's the or 8. You know, like maybe he is capable of playing good football. Maybe he's not. But yeah, Pratt and Rattler would be the easy bet.
Yeah, I would think so too. So interesting that he pointed to 7 or 8 there. So if the Broncos don't get one in the first round, which I don't think is going to be the case, stay tuned because they might draft one of the 7 or 8 quarterbacks later in the draft. Another thing that I found interesting is how much Sean pointed to analytics, but then specifically AI in this process. I mean, multiple times he mentioned how him and George met with the analytics department, which he says is excellent with the Broncos. Met with them for multiple hours last night. Well, yeah, I mean, these guys
Our
don't
terrible
know what they're
analytics department. We just had this meeting; they were awful.
But he just kept talking about how important analytics is in this draft process. And then he went a step further by saying just in 5 or 10 years, AI is going to be so important here. Are we going to get to a day where there's like not a general manager? And instead it's just like, we're having a press conference with the head coach and an AI bot?
No,
that
would be an insane thing to do. That would go horribly. Like, did you see, I saw somebody posted, a good friend, Amy Just, who covers Nebraska, supposed she Googled best Kansas women's basketball players of all time. Their AI have this new thing popped up and it's like Caitlin Clark. Hey, if you're just putting all of your eggs in that basket, like, who knows? It might do a great job 98% of the time, but all of a sudden, pick number 6 in the draft is Joe Milton. Who's like, look, the arm strength. Like, and everybody knows that that's just a joke. So, yeah, no, that won't happen. But
so you're not buying this AI thing?
No, I'm buying AI. I'm just not buying that it's going to be taking the jobs of NFL GMs.
Alex literally, and maybe you, thought I was serious about like AI truly being the general manager.
You never know.
I was joking with that one. But I just think that's something to really keep your eye on. And I think it's really smart.
Yeah.
Because some teams, now every team does analytics to some extent. Maybe you don't need to be the Dan Campbells of the world where you are using analytics to like make all of your decisions. And obviously that did not work well for Brandon Staley out there with the Chargers. But now every team uses analytics to some extent. And I think it's really smart, the teams that adopted it early. And it doesn't mean that you have to rely on it, but you just have that as a tool. Some teams did a lot earlier than others. And I think that going and using AI is a lot smarter to get on that track right now and get on that train now. But that is just an interesting thing that I found. Another thing.
I just asked ChatGPT what the Broncos should offer the Cardinals.
Yeah, what did it say?
Like 4 paragraphs and never said what to give. It's like the Broncos might consider offering their 12th overall pick along with additional draft picks in later rounds to make up the difference.
See, that's great. That's great advice right there.
But I mean, give me what you're offering. You know, like tell me what they're.
You got to be more specific.
I said what? How much should the Broncos offer the Cardinals? Move from the 12th pick in the NFL draft to the 4th pick.
Yeah, and it said the 12th and something else as well. That's a good start. Yeah. That's why Sean said in 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, that's true.
They'll be using it a lot more. Let's see. One other thing that you know how there's reports right now that people say they do know what the Broncos are going to do.
Yeah.
George Paton said, we don't even know what we're going to do because we don't even know who's going to be there. And in reality, they don't know where they're trading up to. Yeah. That is the big thing with that. Also, another thing, Bill Belichick.
Yes.
Sean Payton's a big fan of Bill Belichick. I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos are making a playoff push this year and they bring Bill Belichick in to be like a coaching consultant for the last couple months of the season.
Would you be more surprised if the Broncos make a playoff push, or if, given they make a playoff push, they bring in Bill Belichick to help out?
The playoff push.
I go the other way is still more surprising.
I'd be more surprised by that.
I'd be very surprised by the playoff push. I'd be even more surprised by the Bill Belichick helping with the playoff push.
Bill Belichick just loves this game. I mean, he's been in it for 50 years. I think this is killing him to sit out. And man, Robert Kraft, Patriots fans are turning on Robert Kraft.
Yeah, that's dumb of them.
Big time Patriots fans that I know are like, F that guy, sell the team because of what you're doing to Bill Belichick.
They're wrong. Like
what?
That. I mean, the Super Bowls, like.
Wait, what? No, but they're pissed that Robert Kraft has been like turning on Bill Belichick this entire offseason, making a documentary series about just bashing him, calling up Arthur Blank to tell him don't trust Bill Belichick. What the hell?
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but it's like, I mean, imagine Drew Brees at the end of his career, just like get rid of him. It's like maybe not. You know, Robert Kraft has just done so much. Like, he's won all those Super Bowls. He made them the Patriots. You're
giving Robert Kraft more credit for the Super Bowls than Bill Belichick?
No, I'm not giving anybody more credit than anybody. I just know he was a part of it. He owned the team. It's the same thing with like the Cronkies. Like, people want to say like they're doing a horrible job because they're on TV, all that sort of stuff. Like, they hate the Cronkies. I'm not going to tell anybody else how to feel, but I do they've just brought an NBA championship and the Stanley Cup here. Like, I've got no beef with them right now. Everything's going good as possible. I'll get Fubo if I need to get Fubo, you know? Like Robert Kraft, if you want to get rid of Robert Kraft, who's like the most decorated owner in the history of the NFL, I just think that's an insane opinion to have.
How about this? Mr. Rocket says, fire Vance Joseph and offer Bill a fat check to be the defensive coordinator if things don't work out with Vance and the Broncos do move on from him and Bill isn't able to get a head coaching job next year, which is wild, but I thought it was also wild he didn't get one this year and only got one interview this year. I could absolutely see that being a scenario. Sean wanted to work with Vic Fangio. He wanted to bring him here to be the defensive coordinator, but obviously it was just a little awkward with Vic being here, so that didn't happen. So he has no problem working with former head coaches to be under him and his staff. So I wouldn't be shocked at that. And as Victory Lap says, Tom Brady's bored. Give him a call. Maybe it's just a different pairing of Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. They're just on opposite ends of the ball.
I just thought about that. What if you draft Shador next year and then you bring Tom Brady to be a coach? Like just kind of a consultant?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
You wouldn't take that?
No. Yeah, here I got to call you. This is like the people who said that about Peyton Manning. Like, just bring Peyton Manning in to be a quarterback coach. It's like,
No.
Peyton wants to do a lot more than quarterback
Not
coach.
a quarterback coach, a consultant. Kind of like they do in college. Just somebody that you have them on the staff, you can call them up whenever, help out, kind of read the game better for your QB. Not a quarterback coach.
I see what you're saying.
If
you
he wants to.
pay him to be like very part-time in and out, just there for Shador.
D-Ware kind of like, why not have the greatest mind at the quarterback position? One of the best winners help you out.
Yeah, sure. You pay Tom $1 million to just like be able to answer his phone when Shador calls. I'm sure Tom would take that deal.
Oh yeah, like I would. Well, I mean, unless he owns the
Wasn't as bad a
Raiders.
suggestion as I thought.
No, I don't love it.
It's just not going to happen.
Coach. It's not, but I would love it. Give me a 10 out of 10.
Jose says Shador needs help deflating balls. What are you saying? You hear?
You got to cheat to win, baby.
Yeah.
Cheaters of leaders, as my mom always used to
Really?
maybe joke. I don't.
Sounds
I'm
more
not
like
sure if she was
RK.
joking or not. Yeah, that does sound like RK. Anything else from today's press conferences, Henry?
Oh, the edges and cornerbacks. Basically asked, do you feel like there's a need to edge and cornerback, or how do you gauge those needs? Basically said, like, yeah, we kind of like the guys we have there. We also, like, those are important positions. If there's a great deal on a guy, you got to go get him. Otherwise, like, what the fuck are you doing? Is what I would, shout out to our shout out to our guy in the chat.
Wow.
I got scared on that one. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah. I mean, that's it makes sense. I do think it's crazy to me how many people would get upset if they draft a cornerback. That's one I don't get, because you need one. Like, you just like you need other spots. Like, I get you're kind of blocking Damari and Riley Moss, but also, have they shown you that they don't need to be blocked? Like, but they're fine with an edge rusher. Meanwhile, you're blocking Nick Benito and Bear Bryant, Jonathan Cooper. Like, you have needs at all these positions. Cornerback is like a high value position, so I don't understand what the frustration is.
Just to clarify something. Well, no, really quick before I even clarify. Save that comment for later. You hear for me, please. Talking about that, Henry, I think anyone's going to be pissed at a non-offensive position. And specifically, I mean, everyone's going to be pissed if it's a non-quarterback, but I think then most people are going to be pissed if it's a non-offensive position. So I think people are going to be pissed at cornerback and edge. But I see your point about both of them.
Yeah, no, I think like nothing should be off the board. I do think if you're not drafting a quarterback in the first round, what is wrong with you? I guess
that's why they're drafting one.
At some point, you can't really trade up, and if you don't like Penix, then what are you gonna do? Like, you just kind of have to wait. So if they don't do that, then I mean, I guess the door opens. But if it's not a quarterback, it's gonna be disappointing. It might be smart. It might be smart to build the team a different way and play the long game and trade way too much in a couple years to go get a quarterback. But just it'd be nice to. You got a lot of needs to fill, but that's the biggest. Why not just fill it?
Man, a lot of people did not like what Todd had the Broncos doing in the first round in the draft yesterday. People thought it was so idiotic to trade up, even though it was just one spot, future third-round pick, to go get Michael Penix Jr. But I do think that was a good thing we did because of the Raiders. And Sean identified the Raiders as being a team moving up for a quarterback. We put the poll out. We didn't even say trade up even one spot. We just said if you Broncos drafted Michael Penix Jr. at 12, how would you grade the pick? Over 1,000 votes. Did you see the results, Henry?
I did not.
Okay. The options are a grade of A, B, C, or then one category D/F. Which one would you say got the most votes? The biggest percent?
People don't really like Penix at the moment. I mean, at all moments. It's been for months now.
He is a quarterback, though.
He is a quarterback, which is good. I would guess, let's just call it, I'll be optimistic and say a C.
Ding, 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 ding,
Hey!
ding, ding. A C. 29% of the vote came in for a C. Then two other ones were within 1% of each other for second place. What would you guess? What would you guess those two ones are? Which one took the edge?
I don't think. Maybe sometimes it's people love the extremes on the internet.
It's true.
But again, I think people just get so caught up in the mock drafts that they'd say like, he's not worth the 12th overall pick because the mock draft didn't say so. It's like, that's not really how things work.
You said yesterday, though, a lot of people are mocking Penix to go 13.
Very few saying 12, though. Very few saying 11. And so it's going to be called a reach if they do it. Give me, I'm going to be optimistic myself here and say it's an A and it's a D and an F. Those are the two that are close.
Nope.
Is it D and an F and a B?
Yep.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
B comes in at 27%. You have D and F at 26%. And the fewest votes came in for an A at 18%. But C, I guess.
Yeah.
Only 26% of people think it would be a failing pick there. I just realized I have had airplane mode turned on this entire show.
Oh, want me to tell you what you missed?
Hopefully nothing.
You know that Dillard guy?
Nope.
Andre Dillard? Yes, Andre Dillard. Packers signed him.
Oh, okay. So no, I didn't miss anything.
Yeah.
That is good to hear. Okay, let's dive into the comment section. Coming in, we've got some questions on the show from Dylan. Says, which quarterback do you think Sean Payton wants the most?
I think you can make an argument for just about any of them.
Wow.
I mean, actually, no. It's Caleb Williams.
Okay, sure. Yeah, Caleb Williams aside, I'm going to say the two guys he would be willing to move up for is Jayden Daniels and J.J. McCarthy. Those are the two I think he really likes. Edward says, why mortgage the Broncos' future for too high a risk for the future?
Because you're going to have to do it eventually.
Exactly. You're desperate. If
how getting a quarterback goes.
Yeah, if you think that if you love a guy, then you do what you can to get him this year because you don't know if you're going to love a guy next year and if you're going to be in a position to get him next year either. Edward again says, Henry, if the Broncos can't get a quarterback at 12, who would you like?
Brock Bowers.
Agree with that, 100%.
Yep. Quinyon Mitchell would be fun, but Brock Bowers, if he's there, is the answer.
Agree with that. Nick Allen says, George Paton said he thinks there are 7 to 8 quarterbacks in this draft. Seeing as he evaluated Russ, I don't know if I can trust him.
I mean, he was in like the 99% of people who said Russ was good.
That's very true.
Like maybe not everybody was saying Russ is great, but everybody at the very least was saying Russ is good.
Yep.
And
it's true.
It's just so tough to hold that against him.
That is fair. That is why he is still around right now. Tanner says, you actually think Sean doesn't think he can replace Court? I agree with that,
That's
Tanner.
interesting. I mean, I'm sure he thinks he can. Can he... Again, for the combination of $13 million and whatever draft pick you get, a 5th, 6th round pick, I'm not so sure. I mean, I think long term he finds him replaceable. At this stage, I'm not convinced.
Yesterday, Baldy said he was pointing to Marquise Colston about that 7th round pick that Sean was able to get and turn into a 1,000-yard receiver. I think Sean trusts himself. If he has a quarterback, then he can turn the receivers into being good enough. So I agree with you, Tanner. Edwards says, what about Davius Richard as a late-round quarterback?
I had never heard of him before. Goes to North Carolina Central University.
Oh, NCSU?
Just pulled up the highlights.
Is this from 20 years ago?
Oh, he's running. Oh, okay. He's got a little juke move. Doesn't seem very tall. How's the touch? A little wobble on that ball. Hey, hit him in stride. He was wide open, but hit him in stride.
Wow, this film looks so old.
So he has the spin move and the juke move. He can't be more than 6'1", though. Look at that.
No.
Does he have interest in being a running back?
Next Drew Brees.
Yeah.
Yeah, Taysom Hill
Taysom Hill's
there.
tall. Taysom Hill's tall.
Taysom Hill is big.
That's
That was
a nice little
touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Was that Kendall Hinton?
Yeah, maybe the next Kendall Hinton.
Could be the next Kendall Hinton. And our final question coming in from Vash the Man says, Zach never said which NFL legend was at the facility practicing last year. Who was that? So I think some people got a little confused at what I said. And I think I said this on the mailbag.
Yeah,
so
it was the mailbag.
The normal pod listeners wouldn't have heard this. And I don't remember how it was brought up.
You phrased it correctly, though.
Okay.
Yes,
I did phrase it correctly. Thank you. So to refresh, and I'm not going to say who it was, we'll talk after the show.
I don't think we can.
Maybe I'll reveal it.
Last
next
I heard,
week.
we're sworn to secrecy.
Okay, we're sworn
that
to
was
secrecy.
a year ago, though.
Maybe the secrecy's come out of the bag, so we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
But the DNVR facility, this building that we're in, there's a couple of other people that businesses that occupy this building, even though we have the majority of it. There's the bar, there's our studio, there's our office, there's another office up top, and then there's a couple of other businesses on the first floor. And there was a very prominent star NFL player, who was working out at one of those businesses.
I think you already did,
Yeah, quarterback. There was a very prominent elite quarterback 2 years ago?
It would have been 2 years ago.
2 years ago, working out in this building. And some people thought that I was talking about working out at the Broncos facility, but it wasn't. It was actually at the DNVR Bar.
It was 2 years ago, yeah.
Not the bar.
Not
DNVR, but in this building that we're in.
That was a crazy day.
When does the NDA expire? Do we know?
Well, we didn't sign anything, so technically we just get somebody pissed off at us.
Well, and would that person be the person, or would it be someone else?
The person...
Would it be the football player that would be pissed off?
It would not be the football player. It'd be the person who was working with the football player.
Do we know that person?
I think I know which guy he is. You know, you see guys around. I think I know who he is.
We might be able to spill the beans.
We might be able to.
So stay tuned. We might spill the beans soon. Mr. Orange rounds us out with the super chat. Says,
you go ahead, but that one at the bottom.
As always, appreciate the show, guys. My favorite Broncos show to watch. Thank you, Mr. Orange. And a big shout out to everyone who's been rocking and rolling with us this offseason. Some people have said,
rapping.
like, oh, man, this has been like, you guys have had the same conversation so many times.
It's true.
It's the off season. We're a week before the draft. We're gonna spice it up tomorrow. We got a fun guest on. Plus, Henry has a great idea for our draft. It's a really fun one, which does relate to the draft. It's a little different though. And then next week, oh my goodness, we are just going to be hitting the ground running. Monday uniforms drop, and then obviously the draft starts Thursday. So we're gonna have plenty of new pre-draft talk Tuesday and Wednesday as well. And before we get out of here, for a third time, our final chat coming in from Rebuild This Team says, I hope y'all have a draft show. Please don't make me resort to a different show. Don't
we
worry,
will not make you.
We won't do that. Ben Henry, you're sticking around?
Yes, we
So
have
I
the
just
draft
leave and we stay
pod.
live?
Fuck it, I don't care.
Wow,
There's 3.
third.
I think
earmuffs.
draft show at 3. We're talking front 7 guys today, which is going to be a lot of
big
fun.
boys, huh?
But also a draft show. We will be live during the draft. So first of all, come out to Breckenridge Brewery, hang out. We'll have speakers so you can just hang out for all that. You can watch together, see who the Broncos coach is. Or quarterback. We know the coach is. But then also, if you're not going to be at the farmhouse, first of all, you're making a mistake. But we will be live. Me and Dre and RK and Todd Davis, the Super Bowl champion. And maybe some special guests. Maybe a little Justin Michael. Maybe a little Jake Schwanitz. I remembered. So we will be live during the draft. We'll be live during draft day 1, day 2, and after day 3, and maybe during day 3 too, depending on whether it was a playoff game taking the studio. And
I believe the Nuggets game will also be going on down there too. So you can come hang out, watch the Nuggets, catch the draft with us as well. Thank you, Henry, for rocking and rolling with us. Thank you, Yahir, for everything. Thank you to the Toyota Super Chat for tuning along with us. We love you. We'll be back tomorrow. You don't want to miss it, 11 a.m.
We all silly like the mayor.